Washington State has a two-stage endorsement process. You get a temporary endorsement with limitations. You're not allowed to ride with a passenger or after dark, and it's valid for 6 months. And then there's a permanent endorsement, which allows you to carry that endorsement without restrictions there on forward. You can take both of those tests or all 4 tests on the same day if it's available to you. Otherwise, it's intended to be as 2 stages, your temporary endorsement or your permit, and then your permanent endorsement. In this video, I'm going to cover what you have to do to get that first temporary endorsement. There'll be a video following up on this that'll explain the details for the riding portion of the permanent riding endorsement. To start off with, you will have 4 tests in total. You will have a 25-question multiple choice for the permit or the temporary endorsement. You will have a 50-question test, which is going to be multiple choice for the permanent endorsement. You'll have 5 skill elements that you'll need to show that you can ride the bike. It's basic rider control skills. That's all the permit test is. And then you'll have a second 2-element test for your permit endorsement. Everything on the written test for the permit is in the book that's provided by the Department of Licensing. It is the Motorcycle Operator's Manual. It is available in hard copy if you go into an office, or you can get it online. If you're practicing test online, there are no tests for this test online. Any website that says, hey, practice for your motorcycle endorsement test are wrong. Many of the questions that you'll get on those practice tests are incorrect compared to the answers that are going to be in the test and in this book for Washington State. So the only way to study is study the book. When you do your final endorsement test, that 50 question, many of the questions come out of this book, and many of the questions do not. They're considered, what's the way they put it? They are judgment questions. So they're going to ask you something and you have to give your best judgment or your thoughts about it. So you really need to think about those questions, and there is absolutely no place where you can study those questions. There's no book, there's nothing online. Washington provides nothing to study that second test. The riding skills test for the permit. What I'm going to do is go through the riding cards or the briefing cards to take that test so you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. The very first thing you have to do, remember there's 5 elements. The very first run is going to be a cone weave and a normal stop. They're going to read the cards and say, you will start this run from the center of the T. On the ground, there'll be a painted T in white or yellow or some other color. When signaled, weave around the cones beginning on either side of the first cone. Weave past all 5 cones without hitting a cone, skipping a cone, or putting a foot down. Ride to the stop box, make a smooth, non-skidding stop inside the box, and your tire is not allowed to touch the lines on the edge of the box. When you're stopped inside the box, again, no touching the lines. When you're finished with that testing element, get in line. Every rider will be briefed and run through each element one at a time. So the whole group will come in, you'll get briefed, you'll do one element, you'll wait, everybody else will do their test, they'll line it behind you. So you don't have to remember the whole test. That weave is 12 feet, 5 cones in line. It's not a difficult weave. The stop box is 2 feet by 3 feet, and you just have to stop to the inside. Think of it as a stop line. Not difficult, easy to do on a sport bike, on a large Harley or touring bike or Gold Wings, whatever it is you ride. This test is not designed to be difficult. It's only designed to show basic controls. So they're looking for balance, they're looking for clutch, they're looking to see if you stall. You will have elements. Anytime you stall, that's a point value as well, so don't stall your motorcycle. On to number 2. Number 2 is turn from a stop and a U-turn. You will start from the center of the T, just like the last activity. In fact, all of these elements are going to have a T on the ground that are painted. So you'll start at the T. When signaled, make a right-hand turn inside the lines that are painted on the ground. You're not allowed to cross the line or put a foot down. Then you're going to ride to a U-turn area and complete a U-turn to the left. They'll put a cone in the middle of the U-turn so you have an idea what you're going around, and they'll paint the U-turn itself, the boundaries, with paint. Some sites will drop a cone to help mark it so it's easier to see, or if you're in foul weather conditions, rain, things like that, they might mark it to make it easier. You have to stay inside the lines. You're not allowed to put a foot on the ground. Then what you do when you're done with your U-turn is you're going to ride to another box and stop with your front tire inside the box. That U-turn is 24 feet wide. To give you some perspective, the federal standard for a highway lane is 12 feet. That's the minimum stand for a highway lane. So essentially you're making a U-turn in 2 lanes of traffic. If you can do that, you're good to go. It is, again, not a difficult level of skill that's needed. This is about getting a permit to give you permission to go on the road to learn how to ride. It's not a master's skill set for riders. If you have struggle, or if you're struggling with any of these skill sets, my recommendation is take a rider education course, call Puget Sound Safety, call one of the other schools in the state, sign up for either a learn to ride class or a returning rider class or an equivalent. And they'll help you. That's the whole point, is they'll help you do that. If you are a rider and you're already out there and you have your motorcycle, I recommend taking the step up from the beginner class and ride your own motorcycle. Don't ride one of the school bikes. Almost always when I'm testing riders, those that switch over to a small bike don't do as well as if they ride the bike they actually ride on the road. Remember, that's the bike you're going to ride on the road. You're taking training. You might as well learn how to ride it better. And of course, the instructors know what you have to do to pass the test. Run number 3 is the obstacle swerve. This is the mythical car parked inside the lane that you have to swerve around because apparently you were sleeping on your motorcycle. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to have a staging point and you're going to have a T to begin the activity. The staging point means all the riders are going to be lined up and waiting because there's a possibility you might get to run this a second time. There's a couple of errors you can make and you'll get a free run. If you mess up the second one, you are done and over. You're going to get max points on that. If you haven't hit out your max to fail, they'll move you on, but don't mess up your second run if you get a second chance. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to make a run at the staging area. They're going to call you up to the T, and then they're going to call you down to do your swerve. You're going to quickly accelerate up to a blistering speed of 12 to 18 miles per hour. Doesn't actually say blistering speed, I just made that up. But 12 to 18 miles per hour isn't really fast. And if you're struggling with getting the bike started, then by all means take a rider class or practice that before you do your testing, or that's going to be something that's going to get you in trouble. This isn't the only activity that requires that high speed run in a short run up. Once your tire crosses the cones that are on the ground, you're going to swerve to the left or to the right to avoid an obstacle that's on the ground. That obstacle is going to be marked with painted lines. A lot of places will put cones down to make it a little bit cleaner. And then on the right and on the left, there'll be some painted lines on the ground that will confine your path to travel. This is about the width of a car. And so again, at 12 to 18 miles per hour, if you are swerving to avoid a car and you can't stop, you've really made some mistakes. This test is all about basic rider skills. This isn't really about life-saving skills. So just keep that in mind when you're taking the test. That's it. That's all that one is. You are now more than halfway through the test. That's number 3 of 5. Number 4 is the quick stop. Now, you would think this is a life-saving skills, and apparently, according to statistics, people die because they quickly accelerate to 12 to 18 miles per hour and cannot stop in enough time. So we're going to make sure that you have that skill set. Essentially, they're just making sure you can use both brake levers and you can pull the clutch at the same time. So that's what we're really working on here. Here's what's going to happen. This is going to have a staging area, and from that staging area, you're going to move up to the T. Again, there may be a rerun opportunity. They're timing your speed, and that's how they know you're going 12 to 18 miles per hour. They'll call you up to the T. You will then, again, just like the last activity, scream and quickly accelerate to that blistering speed of 12 to 18 miles per hour. The wind blowing in your hair as you're ready to go ahead and stop your motorcycle. Once your front tire crosses the 2 cones they have on the ground, you're going to stop in the distance you can, the shortest distance you safely can. This is the charging squirrel coming out. You're trying to save your life. Once you stop, do not move. The tester's going to come up, they're going to measure your distance, and based on how much speed you had coming in, there'll be a standard for that distance. So if you come in slow, you're going to have less distance. If you come in faster, they're going to have more distance. Don't look at your speedometer. It's not that big a deal. And if you completely hose your speed, you get a rerun, and you only get 1 rerun. Also, if you begin braking or rolling off before those cones, they're going to send you back to the front of the line. And then everybody's still waiting in line for you to do your run, and that's embarrassing. So don't do that. Make sure that you time it out. If you're practicing your test before you do this, again, you may want to practice beginning your braking at a particular point. That's a common miss for riders, is just they start braking too early. So that's something that's worth practicing. And again, if your skill sets aren't that great, come take a class. You hear a theme in there, right? All right, now you are 4 out of 5. Number 5 is going to be cornering. This is the very last element. You'll begin at a staging area. They're going to move you up to a T, and when signaled, you're going to ride through the first curve. The idea is there's a curve on the ground. You have to stay inside the yellow lines. You'll quickly accelerate down the straightaway to a speed of 20 miles per hour. Now we're talking about speeds that have children in a school zone. And that's the speeds you're going to be riding at, 20 miles per hour. Prior to the second curve, you're going to use your brakes or downshift, whatever you want to do to begin slowing for the appropriate speed for that curve. You'll enter that curve, as they say here, ride through the second curve, maintaining a smooth, increasing speed without crossing the boundary lines. Those are lines that are painted on the ground. You'll have passed your very first part of the permanent endorsement. So that'll be skills test to get your temporary endorsement. And then within the 6 months, you have to come back and do the final endorsement process, or the final written and the final riding skills test. You can do that same test on the same day if the school provides it. We do have some of the classes, our returning rider, that offers both tests on the same day. If you do a basic class, we're going to allow you to do all of your permit testing as part of the class, including the motorcycle, the written, and the riding. So that's a benefit to you. That's included with the class. With the returning rider, we include both tests. If you need both tests, if you only need one, then you'll be able to take that one test. That's what you need to know to get your endorsement in Washington State. So once again, in review, you have 2 written tests. One is 25 questions, it's based on the handbook. One is 50 questions, it's based on the handbook, and some judgment questions. Those questions are covered during the class. If you do the returning rider class, the instructor will cover that information. Otherwise, many of those questions are not actually in the book. Washington State does not have any place where you can study for those additional questions. You have the 2 riding tests, the first skills test, which is a point test. So you have to get accumulated point value of a certain level before you don't pass. Again, it's just basic skills. It's not about riding or life-saving skills. It just shows you know how to shift, you know how to use the brakes, you can balance the bike, that you're not going to become a significant hazard to you or put others in danger while you're trying to learn how to ride the motorcycle. The second test is a go, no-go standard. And again, if you look here, that's the link that will tell you how to pass that second endorsement test. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the school at Puget Sound Safety or one of the other training schools here in Washington. You can test out, you can take a class and take the test. Any way you do it, make sure you get legal.